Okay, in the last video, I missed one tiny but very significant piece of information when we were looking at the new lightbox setup, because we added in the element, we set all the styling either in the function or in the style, as was mentioned. However, at the end of create new post-it, as with all elements added through JavaScript, it has to be then appended to the document, and the lightbox I've appended separately from everything else because it appears elsewhere in the page. So document.body.append child new lightbox is what is adding the lightbox at the very end. Otherwise, without that, they don't actually appear. Okay, so moving forwards, what we're going to do then is to try and make the lightbox disappear when we create the next one. And that actually isn't too far away from this line. So once we've put in append child, there is a function, a condition lower down at the end of the function, which checks to see if the variable I is bigger than 0. And if it is, then it takes I less than 1, which is referring to obviously the last object, because if I is the current number, then we want to find the last number. We then find the post ID, post-it, and adding that number on. So if I was 2, then we would be looking at post-it 1. We're doing the same for lightbox ID as well. Logging the post-it ID and then using that information to get access to the post-it bar, same number, find the children of the post ID, and then set all of the display for those things to none, except the post-it bar, which is used to change the event listener or add the event listener reveal post rather than hide post, which is the default to start off with as here. So that's what's collapsing the previous post, but it's also then setting the display of the lightbox ID to none. So the last lightbox element will disappear, similar to collapsing. So if I double click here, create a box, and then create another box there, you'll notice that the previous lightbox has disappeared now. That won't return yet. The rest of the function will continue to work with the post-its there, although in this version I've actually added in the coordinates. It's not something you necessarily keep towards the end, but it's just a bit of a reference to show where it's being clicked. Okay, so the next part is to move on and add in the buttons and make everything work. So the next part is to follow through on this, making the lightbox disappear. You'll notice in this version I've actually moved those two lines closer together, but it's still inside of the condition at the end of the create new post-it function. However, in the hide post, I've then also added in some additional lines where I've got the post lightbox relationship and then setting that display to none. Now you'll notice here that I've got e.target, but then I've got a new property, lb, short for lightbox.id. Now I'm actually setting that inside of the create new post function. So create new post-it function there, and it's quite low down. There we go, towards the end when we're appending all the children. I've used a shorthand way of adding a property to an element. So essentially, the window bar refers to the element that we use to collapse and expand the post-it notes. But I've given that the property of LB, new lightbox, which we'll pass new lightbox into. What this does is it means when we have an event added to the window bar, such as clicking it to collapse it and expand it, we can then access this property readily. And so because that function is added to the window bar using an event listener, through this letter, this variable E, we can not only get the ID of what's being clicked, but because we've added the property LB to the thing that's being clicked, we can then get the ID for the lightbox that we're looking for. So in a very quick way, we can then access the property of the display for that lightbox and make it invisible when we're hiding the post. And when we're revealing the post, again, it's similar thing. Here I'm just logging that out when I was testing. But essentially, it's the same two lines with the change to block rather than none. And if we just look at that in this example, as we play through it, there's 1, there's 2, there's 3, and as they disappear, there we go. Okay. So now if I click on post-it and expand or collapse, you'll see the other light boxes appearing and disappearing, except for the one that is current, unless I click on that box. And we will address that in the next video.